So think about, do you know what mental illness is? Do you know what habitat means? And you can see what we can consider normal because speaking normal is actually being. So this session is all going to be looking at the way in which we define abnormalities. The first class of this course is sectioned required to explore different day definitions of technology. And by the end of the session, you should be able to describe not just the evaluations of the descriptions, but also the statistical deviations and comments that are turned off. So this you should consider to be normal because you're just beefing with everyone. Nonstop, you are acting in an abnormal way, and that's a psychological disorder, justifying the decisions of diagnoses that are treating your discussion following pictures and scenarios. And what you think is normal or abnormal is for you to decide. You consider that this and you act upon it. Therefore, there is something weird and magical in all of this. The abnormal becomes the normal, the new norm. And if you carefully examine your own ways, then you know that you find the appreciable level and the pieces in the infinite ocean of information. And the bulletins and the great mass mata, mastering the Kate Tatal and Slaya. So no racial slurs, no dominations, and according to them, it's Adele. So it's my job, because that way to talk and pause essential and these mental disorders and deviations concretely are documented every day on TikTok, on different social networks, and it's quite a niche level. And if you dogry, then you know that it's max treating a massive amount of patients. Somebody driving the interest for the plight and flight. So on the female that you can see, not with the fur form and rack normal. That because the hit and miss is always a part of the equation. This means that it's a Kit Kat consider tit tat behavioral nonsense and the sum of the bikini and the snow. So it's abnormal because it's a little nod to the whole thing. And it has a solution within it in the context that is not really an abnormal behavior in itself. So one of the things Taximatis is one of my Hassasmanai in Begay medical test polygamous marriages and triples and thruples. So I'm taking into consideration the kind of knit that is so popular these days. And I know that this is normal rather than abnormal because TikTok told me so. And it was said to me on the streets, whispered through the canneries and canopy, that the baiting dock is smelling like Pest Bad. Yeah. Often offering royalties as a nod to treating the elites in a way that they would, of course. And it's not a norm because just people are seen as being incapable of criticizing and hitting, catching all the nodes to Bitcoin mine. So that's the public on Twitter giving, taking, and living and sliving. So that's the bond that the owner has with its pet. It's very visible. We know that homosexuality is confusing at times, and it's a great example of this. It was seen as being pivotal and primitive and clueless. We can use homosexuals to identify the bigger picture details on this fabrics. So that's the duality and the gist of just and the way that he's treated. The polygamous way is completely irrational, ever changing tooling and gear. Let all in the low so tar it'll have a meaning at the end of the day if you really zoom into it. So there are many things that depend upon the cultural, so like, and upon the clue that the listener has in their mind stored in the frontal lobe cortex. So I describe these and I give these as a tool to the mystical, magical, livid Tao in one of the easy words. So we consider this statistic prop as strongest in the low. And if they go high, then we go low. Basically, we deviate from the route familiar with the deviation knowledge. And for me, we're doing this and glowing, and glow ups are happening. The majority of people do the mana, statin people with straights, no tradition on this. Basically, just leaving towards the edges, more statistically rare, with the fighting issues considered more abnormal. And look here, because we do the mimic all, and we mimic all in this deviation, Santa. Look at this idea. It's so tactful. And people in this range here, they would be considered statistically abnormal in their deviation. That's a font. So as to the 2% that have a very low IQ, they have a special diagnosis that has previously been described as obnoxious and more statistically rare with a posse. The majority of the people in society have this issue with you. So it's the dark type. And it has its strengths and weaknesses, as everything does. Here's a possible example for the question you might be asked at your interview. Is my customer the best? Of course, the customer is always right.